Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Coaching for Coaches. My name is Anna, and I'm a coach who has helped many other different coaches on the internet, many therapists, many coaches in other areas of expertise. I have trained coaches off of YouTube for the last 2 years as well, ones that have already had a business established or ones that created their own. And it's a very exciting proposition for me because having my own history of looking for a coach 15, 20 years ago, not being able to find a good one, I'm very, very excited to help other people to create their own businesses. So if you're a coach who is interested to get some coaching with me, or a coach who wants to create a brand new business, I have a package for that. The link is below. You can certainly ask me a question before booking or have a consultation with me for an hour before booking the month. But essentially, this is an investment in your business. I will set you up with everything, not just with coaching, but literally down to helping you create a website. And I've done this numerous times. Creating your own pay structure, your own individual, unique way to deliver your genius. And that is why I created this channel, in order to help a new generation of coaches, hopefully, to come through and to shine, because I know for a fact, having coached myself, like I said, different coaches, there is an army of people out there that is just needs a little nudge, needs a little education, a little coaching, maybe to even have confidence to do it, maybe to develop certain things that they are currently have undeveloped, etc., to give them this confidence to start coaching, to start distributing their knowledge, etc. So today, what I'm going to talk about, the title of today's sharing, is what are clients looking for in a coach? So hopefully this will help you get an idea. And so you can also say the do's and don'ts of a coach. What are people looking for, essentially, to hire a coach, a good coach, right? So I've talked about this already several times in the short existence of this channel. And the main objective becomes that you're authentic. So I don't care that you know everything in your field. What I do care about is that you are authentic, that you don't try to be somebody else. This is very important. It's okay to be inspired by other people. It's not okay to heavily borrow or to downright create a whole fucking channel out of somebody else's teachings, like so many people are doing these days, really doing themselves a tremendous disservice, in my opinion, because they're literally advertising their ignorance by doing that, not realizing that the opportunity that they have to deliver something completely unique to people who need coaching, thus creating this absolutely fantastic avenue for your business to be sustainable, but also to deliver the coaching to the people that need it out there in a very unique, authentic way. So it goes hand in hand. If you want to be successful, stop mimicking other people. That would be job one. So create something that is uniquely yours. And that comes through even before people hire you as a coach. So your material, your own channel, or wherever it is that you're advertising your services, it needs to contain the information why somebody would hire you. Now, as simplistic as that sounds, it's really, really important. And, having coached lots of people in the last 9 years, both coaches and not, people who aren't coaches that I've coached would often send me material of other coaches to see. And I have, numerous kind of like examples, and I'm not going to name names in this audio/video, but there's a lot of, excuse me, but crap, okay, in my opinion, where people just literally it's obvious that they're repeating somebody else's words, that they are creating their own opinions based on somebody else's opinions. This is not why somebody would hire you and why long term you would be successful. Okay, you need to form your own point of view. You need to come across as you know what you're talking about. And just like I started out saying, I don't really care, even if I was your client, I don't really care that, you know absolutely everything. I think it's impossible to, and people understand that, to ask of anybody to know everything on your subject. But to be genuine about it and to know what you know so deeply and so intimately, which is also important, having had experiences around it and being able to talk about this freely without referring to your notes every 5 minutes. This is really important. Okay, this is a part of you. This is a part of your identity, of your DNA. This, what I just said to you, comes through so enormously and so purely, and it's a nonverbal communication between you as a coach and your potential client, that you know what the fuck you're talking about. Okay, for the lack of better verbiage, it comes through. No teleprompter will give you this, no notes, no nothing. Okay, I don't care what you do. If you don't intimately understand what you're saying, what you're talking about, what you're delivering, you have no fucking experience. You're just going off of somebody else's knowledge. Your career will be over before it began. All right, I'm just saying to you. So there's no need to become somebody else. Start right where you are and build upon your passions, your unique point of view, your wanting to do it your own way. Because sometimes, people come into my coaching as coaches, and the infamous incident of my channel Magic and Miracles, but some of them were a little bit less kind of like forward about wanting to be like me and would outright want to mimic me and charge the same amount of money and this and that. And like I said, those were minor cases that I was able to coach to not have to do that in order to be appealing. Okay, goes back to this kind of like being unique and being authentic to yourself, one of a kind of situation. You don't have to repeat anybody. Okay, my own coaching business, I structured it based on what was not available out there. I wanted to do it the way that I'm explaining it to you now, that nobody else does it like I do. I want to stand out just by that alone, the way that I do business, and nobody sounds like me, which is why it's so recognizable, which I can't stress enough. Parenthesis here, okay? But we'll go into it more and more on this channel, I'm sure. So the whole demeanor then, the delivery, the vibe, okay? When you feel like you can connect with this person, there's a reason why, okay? And that, clients have told me up and down, all around, over and over again, that I knew something was off with this person. Let's just, a coach that they've tried before. I knew something was off. I should have chosen you. And, then they find me and all this kind of jazz. But clients can tell that your energy is off if you're not being authentic, if you're not doing it with confidence, and you're not doing it with excitement. There needs to be excitement behind it. It needs to be that you don't just start a business because of, showing how great you are. No, there needs to be, and I already spoke about this, there needs to be a genuine connection between you and your potential clients. And everybody has a market, by the way, which is so important, which is why it's so important to stay authentic to you, to attract the people that you can help. If you're being authentic and you're talking about the things that are directly related to your experience, something you've lived through, something that you can definitely speak on, how to overcome, etc., you will have an audience. There's a specific audience for your specific knowledge. So if you're attracting an audience based on somebody else's experience, you will not be able to help those individuals. And so it brings me to my next point. You need to really care. And so this caring you cannot fake. So again, if you really don't you're not coming into this business for the right reasons, which is helping people, you're not going to succeed. You might as well give up now. If somebody told you that it's a good idea to make a lot of money fast, forget it. Like, you will attract your downfall even faster, in my opinion, because the sustainability of this business is such that you need to really care about the people. And it shows. Once again, it really does show. You will not be able to fake it. And so, from my own kind of like history and point of view, when I was looking for a coach 15, 20 years ago, and, those were not cheap coaches. Let me just say it like that. I had the celebrity coach for like $2,000 an hour. Yes, it does exist. And to me, when I would meet with him, he was very polite and very kind of, professional at first. But as I got, to know him more and more, the conversation was more about him, and the way that he was speaking about his other clients, the way that he was viewing this whole coaching process was really not what I wanted, to have in a coach. It was, downright unprofessional. Let me just say that. So clearly, there's a lot of problems there. It was more about himself. And you would be surprised the feedback that I get in my coaching from from the clients that I coach as individuals. It's a very prevalent faux pas in this business where you start talking about yourself the entire session, or maybe like the majority of the session. I've heard this over and over again. I ask every single time my clients, what was your experience before? Who have you coached with? This and that. And a lot of them have told me this exact thing, that the coach would not stop talking about themselves. This is deeply unprofessional. In my own coaching practice, if somebody asks me something, or if I can make an example out of my own personal experience, and I know that this will help this individual, then I'll bring it up. But it's highly unprofessional to start out talking about yourself. The client is the job, as I've mentioned before, and they should be your sole focus. If they ask, absolutely answer. I mean, I don't really have, anything to hide or anything to, kind of not talk about with my clients. But I feel like some things are more personal than others, and I'm not the one in coaching. But what I can, I share, and especially if it helps the individual, certainly. But to talk about yourself the majority of the time, absolutely not. The other thing, to really quick, add to this, is that you have to remember that this is a client. This is not a friend. Okay? You need friends, go get them elsewhere. These are your clients. You need to be professional. You cannot be late. I mean, everything, things can happen to everybody once in a while, but every single time you need to be on time or early, maybe a few minutes early. Okay, you need to answer emails in a timely manner. It cannot be that they cannot reach you. Now, there's obviously a fine line between kind of like being too available and, doing your job professionally, meaning it cannot be overbearing, and there's, the boundaries that you must keep as a coach. But overall, they need to be able to reach you, to rely on you, to understand that, this is a professional environment, and it will be a much better way to communicate with them this way and to deliver and do the work that you really need to do with them, rather than, blurring the lines between the professional side and the personal side. This is completely out of the question. And the coaches that do that, it's just, it's not good for business. It really isn't good. It's not a good look. Also, I already touched on this, but I really admire the few coaches that I know that are really good, that they put on a suit to see their clients. They put on a nice dress if it's a woman, or a suit also. They are prepared for a meeting. Okay, this is not, again, make it as professional as you can, because the client is paying for this time. Okay, they have hired you as a professional, so be a fucking professional. People who show up in t-shirts, quite frankly, it's like, nails on a chalkboard for me. I don't understand. And some of them get paid a lot of money, right? $5,000-7,000 an hour. It's like, can't you put on something nice for your client? I don't care if it's a Zoom session or in person, or you're making a video for them specifically, or whatever it is the fuck you do. Become a professional, okay? Put on some makeup, okay? Be a business lady or a businessman. This is a business, so conduct yourself as such. And the caring of this will clearly demonstrate itself in the relationship and the professional relationship that you want to have with your client. And that is not to say, by the way, that you cannot, because I feel like most therapists and coaches have this idea of it being a professional relationship where you don't get too close to the person, meaning you don't get too involved in their development, you don't get too involved in their story. See, this for me is completely opposite. I think I do need to spend as much time as I can professionally and, in terms of my schedule on understanding what the person's needs are within the time that we have together, and then afterwards rewatching the session, which is how I do things. Parenthesis here. I very much am interested in that, and I will, definitely do certain things like stay a few minutes longer for the session, and let the client's point of view be finished. I will definitely watch certain passages again and again, and this I feel is not, kind of like crossing the boundary of any kind. This is doing your job. Because, for example, the first time around that a client comes into my coaching, it's a brand new person. And my job is to really understand what drives them, who they are, their belief system, etc. And so for me, in the beginning, especially, I need to spend extra time on really diving deep with this person into their history and understanding what it is, how it is that I can help them. I may have an idea right away, but I want to fill in as much information as I possibly can. And so to me, this is actually due diligence. This is not crossing a boundary of professionalism or how much how much time you're spending on your client. This, I feel, is for you to be the most professional coach that you could possibly be, because you're investing in helping this person. Right? So you may be billing them hourly. I bill monthly after the hourly initial consultation. But this is why it's best to do it monthly, because there's so much more that you are able to deliver. And, price yourself accordingly, all that stuff. But the understanding should be that you're invested in this person. You are. And it needs to clearly show, which is why you can't fake if you really care. If you really care about what it is you do, if you really care about helping this person, you will spend time. You will not be watching the clock. Now, within reason, absolutely. I'm not saying, go over a half hour or whatever, which, listen, I've done certain things at certain times when I felt it was necessary, right? So there's certain situations when the client is, whatever, it's something that will help them at that moment. They're not having a day, that they want to have, and not just periodically, but on a specific kind of session, you can make your choices of helping them extra, and then maybe you'll cut back the next session or something like that. But this rigid clock watching and simply staying on the surface, it must go. It just must go. Otherwise, you blend in with the rest of the crowd. And again, I want to stress, don't disrespect your time, but where you can, put in the extra effort. Your client will see it, and it will be a much better relationship in terms of understanding that person, understanding that person's needs, and really just making your job much easier, as it were, because number one, again, this person is your job, and you need to understand how to help. And then with that information, you're able to help them a whole lot better than a regular, let's just say, a therapist or a coach who wasn't paying attention as much in the beginning. I feel like the beginning for me is kind of like really crucial to get to know this person. This next point, I will just say that you need to be honest as much as you can, if not all the time. Okay. I feel like that transparency needs to be present 100% of the time, because again, this energy is definitely felt by your clients. Lying to your clients and talking on subjects that you have no fucking idea, again, is very, very problematic. Okay. Or even worse, pushing your own agenda onto a client. And so what I would say is, I think the client needs direction, okay, in the direction of their dreams. And when they're coming to you probably agitated, probably upset. Something's happening in their world at that moment. So the patience and the dedication and the transparency at the same time, it needs to be like this very delicate balance. And this is something to be worked out at within you, quite frankly. Not taking things personally, certainly at some moments. And I don't really mean disrespect, but there may be certain moments where the client just wants to get comfortable with you. And they'll ask you a few things. And that should be okay if you have nothing to hide, once again. Okay, you should be an open book for your client. Why the fuck wouldn't you be, right? They need to see a human in you that they can trust. They're kind of like vomiting their whole life in front of you. Of course they want to trust you. And it doesn't matter that the agreement says that it's, total confidentiality and I've signed NDAs, but I feel like people really want to trust you, trust what you will say, trust your delivery. And this is why misrepresenting or lying or exaggerating what you can deliver and then not delivering that, excuse me, and I just mean from your end. I don't really mean necessarily guaranteeing a certain result for a client. I really mean showing up with the goods just like you promised you would, doing your part. Okay, now in the client's case, maybe they need more time. Maybe, it's a transition period in their lives and they need to and this has happened to me many times, they need to settle in the information they've learned in coaching. And then, maybe a few months later, they come back and like, oh, Anna, I get it now. These things have happened to me, but to deliver the goods and to say and to do what you said you were going to do and how you said you were going to behave without embellishing, without forcing, without trying, this is paramount. This is a lifelong trust. And I've had these relationships outside YouTube, because I'm only on YouTube for 2 years, for years and years with clients. Why? Because they trust me. They trust me because I'm nobody but myself and I only do what I say I'm going to do. And this is truly, truly important. I already kind of touched on this, but whenever a client comes to you, don't make pronouncements. That is not what they're there for, meaning like some kind of predictions that are negative, especially something that they don't want to hear momentarily. Because the truth is, if you're a manifestation coach, everything can be readjusted. So no need to jump to conclusions right from the start. I've heard so many stories when the client hasn't even begun coaching with a coach and the coach has made a pronouncement over the situation, having never fucking heard a word of it. Just an overall kind of synopsis. This to me is unacceptable. It's just, just drop your coaching practice right there, as far as I'm concerned. You can give them a specific analysis, a really detailed analysis of their situation sometime down the road, okay? And that's what you're kind of like getting paid, but only after getting to know their situation and really making an informed and professional decision at that point to communicate to your client that, yes, this is what I think, this is what I think, this is what I think. But especially in the beginning, you need to fucking listen. For the most of the time, listen, take as many notes as you possibly can. And making pronouncements later when they're informed, when you understand. And at no point can it be negative, meaning it can never be that you communicate to your client that something is impossible. First of all, that's really dumb of anybody who does that. Everything is possible. It's just that it's kind of your job to continue directing them towards what they are telling you that they want to accomplish. So your fucking opinion, what they should or should not do, goes out the window. You can have an opinion all day long. Nobody gives a shit about it. They're there for a reason. They're there to get what they say they want. And that's what they're there for. That's what they hired you for. So if they want to attract a certain person, that's what you work on. Now, again, it's a balance of honesty, of seeing a certain person, let's just say, being toxic with them. And certainly you will communicate that to them and let them make their own decisions. This is the other thing. I feel like it's your job to be communicative and honest and see what you see. But at the end of the day, it's their fucking choice. It's what they want to go for. And let them arrive at their own conclusions based on the information that you will give them. It's not a dictatorship, okay? And in this way, in this soft, gentle approach, 100% of the time, it may be 99.99, okay, percent of the time, the client arrived at the conclusion that was obvious, okay, based on certain situations. And then by accepting that truth, we were able to work through, this version of events towards another. But I would never push a client towards something they don't want to do, they don't feel like hearing, they don't want to, kind of like entertain. It's their life. You need to deliver what they want you to deliver, or let them come to the obvious conclusions when you see something really unhealthy. Okay, doing it for somebody else or pushing somebody else into making certain assumptions or decisions is not your fucking job. Again, I make many suggestions in my coaching to my clients. Not all of them get taken, and that is not my job to insist that they do. I'm just there to deliver the tools, to deliver what I need to deliver, and help as much as I can. Ultimately, the decision is theirs entirely. And you need to give your client that fucking freedom, quite frankly, not decide their life for them. That is not, that's not acceptable at all. Now, if they're not at all receptive towards your guidance, then yes, that becomes a problem. Then what are you there to do? And I've had those situations a couple of times. And I just said, well, listen, this is as far as we go, because I can't kind of be coaching you when you're not paying attention to absolutely anything I say. So whatever, that's one scenario. But on the whole, people who are coming for help, they want to get help in a very gentle but very kind of direct at the same time way, because they need a guide. They need a guide, but they want to do it on their terms. And lastly, but certainly not least, and certainly not the last of what I have to say on this topic, but I want to try to keep it at 20-30 minutes. Again, if you want to be a surface level coach, and, again, heard so many different things from my clients in my coaching career, that other coaches, in the session, the prognosis is such that they will give you something that you could actually do on your own. So this is another thing, but very important thing. When they're booking you for a session or for a month or whatever it happens to be, to come prepared with this person's needs in mind. Something like, oh, here, I'll script a visualization for you, or here, I'll redo your beliefs for you, which is completely astronomically disastrous, okay? Redoing somebody's beliefs for them, how does that work? Parenthesis here. They need to be present with you and work with you. If you're a coach, you would understand that. Creating visualization scenes, scripting something for them. Why don't you work with the person so that they understand what it is they need to do themselves? Okay, so in other words, your sessions need to be saturated with discussions, with the time spent with the client for them to understand how to do it themselves. They don't need you. They don't have to need you every single time for silly things like that. So becoming prepared preparing yourself for each session with what it is that they can get only from you. They can learn scripting many different ways elsewhere, but what are you giving to them in the session that will be completely irreplaceable? What have you given them today that was irreplaceable, or was it a complete waste? So that also becomes, consistency and delivering something that they cannot get anywhere else. And that purely comes from you. And again, goes back to the caring, goes back to preparation, goes back to authenticity, to knowing what it is that you're talking about and taking the time to listen. If you just listen most of the time to your client's needs, and you don't just, again, put some kind of declaration on their situation, but actually just mold it with them in union throughout the time that you are spending together, you will achieve a whole lot more than resorting to some kind of affirmations, doing beliefs for them, or whatever the fuck else you're doing right now. That's so mediocre and so stupid. You can do better than that. They're coming to you for you, and you need to really understand that. And so the investment that you'll put in to yourself as a coach will pay astronomical dividends. And this is why I created this channel, and this is why I'm helping people become better coaches. So let's stop here. This is enough for you for the week. If you need coaching, all the information from me is below. Please make sure you sign the coaching agreement prior to contacting me. Scan it, sign it by hand, scan it, and send it to my email with your earliest convenience to start our coaching, or at the very least for our first session. Thank you very much for listening. Until next time. Ciao, ciao.